It's not called Taco Bell. Taco Bowl 3, Ring of Fire. The first two are also rated incredibly highly. I mean, there's so much cleverness in this puzzle. It beggars belief, really.
Huzzah! Well, that was a lot of fun. That was very smooth. So Orb 2 now? Not now. I'll set up a list of impossible puzzles as a Patreon reward.
It is not 2-9 and it is not 3-8. So it is either 4-7 or 5-6. But you can't have it yellow, right?
Okay, that is a 4x4 grid. Okay, I've never been presented with a 4x4 puzzle in this forum before. Okay, well, I don't know. I've no idea what sort of challenge this presents. I'm going to give it a try. It might be over very quickly. It might take a very, very long time. What an amazing creation. That is DiMono for you, one of the world's biggest Sudoku geniuses, no question. I'm sort of rather tempted to just let the video run, make it appear like a 50-minute video. Bye for now.
A completely crazy looking Sudoku. I was thinking I was going to get something that had no digits in it, but actually I've got a massive amount of information. Normal Sudoku rules apply. However, every clue is lying to you. It's nothing. It's basically nothing. Not helpful. Oh, and this one's taking the beep. Look at this one. Knowing this diagonal doesn't add up to 5. Well, it's never going to be able to add up to 5. There's no way you can... I mean, it's got 6 digits on it. It couldn't possibly ever have added up to 5.
Hello everyone. I hope you enjoyed that intro, and welcome to DiMono.
Hi.
And we were just struggling to get this amazing green screen that DiMono has offered me, which I didn't realize there was a miscommunication on who was doing the green screening. DiMono,
There's
please.
a very good reason for that miscommunication, which is, as well established by now, I'm a villain.
Yes.
It's my job to make things as difficult as possible. I'm just being consistent.
Of course. I should have expected nothing less.
I really should know better by now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this is a WebP file. I hope that doesn't cause any issues.
I'm seeing questions in the chat. Mark let that video go for another 35 minutes or so.
Yeah. That's a great...
And it was
that
glorious.
was a great prank. Okay.
I saw the length of that video and I went, 53 minutes? Wasn't that hard a puzzle. Then I saw it and everything made sense all of a sudden.
Okay, this would have looked better if we started with that, but...
It's fine.
There we go. Clearly, DiMono is streaming this live from a mini mall, and there's a total illusion. You guys didn't see anything.
Welcome to my store, I assume. You can go here and buy this thing.
All right. Well, just a glitch in the matrix. All right. Well, first of all, thank you to these wonderful people on the screen here, including DiMono. I mean, thank you to him, but thank you to my wonderful Patreon supporters. One who picked this this background for DiMono, and two who have graciously sponsored our channel and these questions here and this interview. Welcome to my lair. Excellent. All right, DiMono.
Actions are coming later.
Whereabouts do you reside, other than the Rogan store in your evil mini mall?
According to Dante, there are 7 layers, and I'm somewhere around the 6th. To keep things nice and toasty. I'm in Ontario, about 2 hours northwest of Toronto.
Awesome. I didn't even know you were a fellow Canadian. I don't know if you know, I'm Canadian as well. I'm in Calgary.
Well, happy Stampede to you whenever it is.
It's in several months from now. I think 4 months, maybe 3 months. I can't even remember.
Right. You actually go to the Stampede, or is that something that just happens in proximity to you?
I used to just go to the Stampede, or say just sort of proximity to me, and not really worry about it. But recently, I've been going to the Stampede because my fiance's sister is in the grandstand show, so I go to watch her. But yeah, if if that wasn't the case, I probably wouldn't go.
It's a very good reason to go to something.
Yeah,
Prove it.
indeed. Anyways, this is an interview about you, not me.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how many times you can get me lost.
Yeah,
How do you?
brand consistency.
Yeah. How do you balance puzzling with your everyday life?
I actually don't solve that many puzzles anymore, and I haven't been setting any for a while either. I've been working on other things. I do the daily gas every morning, usually right after I wake up, which I'm sure does not affect my time at all. Then Simon or Mark are solving a puzzle that looks particularly interesting. I'll solve that when the video comes out. And it's actually more or less all the puzzling I've been doing for the last few months now.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Just other things have come up that at the moment are higher priority. I was
Is that-
doing more intense puzzling. It was, I had time, I wasn't doing anything else, and I'd go, well, may as well see how many 5-star Fistimafel puzzles I can do in the next 2 days. You know,
Right. You
most part
preempted
is
my
just
question.
whenever I'm not doing anything else.
Right. What are your other hobbies or interests outside of the puzzling sphere?
Well, I write. I've finished a bunch of stories that are going through the editing process right now. One is a horror novel that I actually started working on in 2012, which has now finally gone through enough revision and editing cycles that I'm going to be confident sending it to a publisher soon.
Congrats.
I've got various novellas and short stories that are probably publishable, but I've been more focused on creating and on getting published. So they're all sitting waiting for me to do stuff with them.
Yeah. Something to look forward
And
to,
then
as
I
Nell
also-
says.
Then I also I have a long history with music. I own several instruments of various types. My most recent musical pickup is a concertina. But you know, in the cartoons, people are playing those little tiny accordions like this.
Right, yeah.
Concertina. They're concertina. Picked one of those up recently that ended up being, I think, a 90 or 100-year-old concertina from Germany. 2 dead reeds. So I need to get it serviced.
It'd be impressive if it was
also-
in perfect shape.
It's pretty close. If I were to grab it and just show it on screen, it would look like it's in perfect condition.
Right.
It's only when I
right.
try to play those 2 specific notes that it sort of starts to fail. It's clean, it's functional, that the bellows doesn't have any holes leaking air or anything. It's just those 2 reeds need some work.
As you say that the 2 reeds need some work, I'm realizing that I have absolutely no idea how on earth an accordion works. Like, I've never thought about that before.
We can turn this into a music stream. I can go get it. Air when you
assuming that-
expand or contract the
yeah.
bellows, air goes in, air goes out, and when it passes by a reed whose button you're pushing down, that reed vibrates and makes sound, which is then
Right,
amplified
okay.
by the bellows.
Right, that makes more sense than just this make noise fun toy, which was my understanding
accordion
up to
is-
this point.
The accordion is almost the easiest instrument in the world to play, but instead it's the hardest. The easiest because all the notes are right there, and the buttons actually are really well organized to completely make sense. It becomes the hardest instrument because everything faces away from you, so you can't see anything.
Oh,
You can't actually see what you're doing it's guesswork whether you're in the right place with the accordion. The concertina is smaller, it's more compact, and you can actually take a peek. So
right.
I have a concertina. I don't yet have an accordion, but someday I will.
And we'll all rue that day. So what do you
Actually,
do
a
for
plan
work?
that I
Are
have
you
for the
are you an
future
author?
is
Is that your work, or is that a hobby?
my work is website development.
Oh, okay.
Reading and music are hobbies. I do have a plan to pick up a couple more instruments and start a YouTube channel where I do covers with unusual instruments.
Sounds amazing.
Everyone uses guitar. Everyone else uses guitar or piano. I'm going to use a concertina, a mandolin, an Irish bouzouki, and a bodhran or cajon for the percussion.
Interesting.
And I haven't seen anyone else doing it that way. Full singing as well. I've seen instrumental only Celtic lounge covers, but I haven't seen anyone also sing with those instruments.
Right.
I'm gonna hopefully get around to doing that soon.
I need more content like the old "My Heart Will Go On" played on the recorder. I need more content like that. So I hope you give me more content like that.
I don't know if I can ever play quite that well on any instrument.
Right.
But
Right.
we'll aspire to it forever.
Right. Of course. Are you more of a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl, but not on purpose.
Right.
For some reason, I do not get full nights of sleep. I usually end up going to bed around 2 and getting up around 8. If I go to bed sooner, I wake up sooner. If I go to bed later, I still wake up at 8. It's bizarre. It does not really work for me. My old age, I've had to start taking naps.
Oh, I wish I could say that it was because of my old age that I took naps, but I just like naps.
They're pretty dope.
Naps are pretty dope. Do you have any pets?
Oh, I had some pet rats when I was a kid, but they long ago passed.
Right. But do rats have a very long lifespan? I don't know about that.
Like 5 years, 6 years,
Yeah, I
give or
figured
take.
something
They're
like
rodents. They're small, so
that. Right.
also way cleaner than people give them credit for. Much better pets. They're affectionate.
Interesting. Chameleon said if there would be a "what is your superpower" question, would you just say what you said about waking up at 8 no matter what? Which is a great joke.
Superpower is evil. I thought that was established already.
Right, of course. That's why I don't know the
Philip
question
Newman's
on here.
Newman's joking about Through the Fire and Flames actually will eventually, if I get that YouTube channel going, be a full Fire and Flames cover. Where I'm going to, in the video, have it be split screen. Mandolin here and bouzouki here, and then singing here. And it'll be one shot for each instrument. Because that's
Epic.
something that... I can't remember his name now. Guitarist for Dragon Force. One of the things he commented on was someone was doing a recorder cover of Through the Fire and Flames, did it all in one take. And he commented specifically about how impressive that was because it meant there was no multiple recordings to make sure that everything went properly. And I'm going to make sure that mine also is done that way. I get to it. I'm sure it's an easy song to play. It'll be fine.
Well, all this talk of music
Yes, thank you, Philip.
makes me even more interested about the answer to this question that I have on my document. If you could only listen to one song on repeat for the rest of your life, what song would it be?
Ooh. I'm going to make a lot of people simultaneously happy and sad by saying The Planets by Holst.
Interesting.
Classical music nerds are going to be really happy that I picked classical music, but really upset that I'm calling it a song.
That's the one about the planets including Pluto, right? And then someone rewrote it without Pluto. I can't remember.
I don't know if it's been rewritten, but Holst's original idea was he did a movement for each planet,
Right,
and they're
right,
all
right.
recognizable. I could
Interesting.
play any of them. People would immediately go, "Oh, I recognize that." I think that one from 2001, ba 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 da da. I think that's Jupiter. It's everywhere.
Yeah. I do recognize that, even just from those three notes. uh, Another interesting and weird question that I have here is, do you have a favorite conspiracy theory, and if so, which one?
Well, favorite is in huge air quotes.
Yes,
Uh,
definitely.
there was supposedly a dude who used a time machine to travel back to modern era, ended like 15 years ago or something, spent 3 days online sharing pictures of the time machine, and then vanished. The idea that that dude was telling the truth is a fantastic conspiracy theory. Not technically a conspiracy theory because it's a conspiracy of one.
Right.
Conspiracy theories in general are usually so absurd
They
because
usually involve, like, what is the word? Like, conspiracy, I guess.
what's the
Conspiring.
idea
That's the
that
word.
say the people who say the moon landing was faked,
Right.
right? This great big conspiracy, hundreds or thousands of people involved to fake the moon landing, all sorts of production going on. And they are so competent to get all of that done, incompetent enough to let it leak.
Right.
The great story about that I heard recently, Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying it on a podcast, where he goes that the NASA engineers went to Hollywood and they said, "This is too hard, we can't get to the moon. Need to fake it so that Russia thinks we beat them there." And the Hollywood producers having so much difficulty replicating what they thought the moon would be like if they landed there. And they said, "Okay, we're going to do this, but we have to do it on location." Newman bringing the receipts. John Titor was the name of the guy I was thinking about. The time machine. Conspiracy theories in general are funny.
I
A lot of them are also based on a lack of proper information. Like, do you remember how for 9/11 the conspiracy theory was that the Pentagon was hit by a missile because the hole was too small?
yeah.
If you actually go to the measurements of the hole was exactly the size of the fuselage.
Right.
Because the listed height of a plane is bottom of wheels to top of fin. Some of that was already inside the body and some got ripped off, so the actual hole was the exact size of the fuselage,
Right.
which makes it the right size hole for the plane. Like, it's all based on a lack of information. And the way that plays out is fun to watch, but not fun because of the potential implications if people start taking it too seriously.
Yeah.
That's a fine line to walk.
I think my favorite thing about the moon landing conspiracy is the scene, or I don't know if it's like a scene, but like the concept in, I think it's Interstellar, where the school that the main character's daughter is at is teaching that the moon landing was fake. But then the main character, Matthew McConaughey, is like, no, it wasn't fake. Which is just such a weird... Who put that in that movie? It's like... It doesn't make any sense at all. Even just conceptualizing, like, they have understood now that this is fake, like as if someone admitted it or they knew based on facts, and then Matthew Conaughey's like, no, it's not. Like, what? What? This is worse than the conspiracy itself.
Here's a
Anyways,
question: Do you, as far as the ones that you think are more fun compared to damaging, do you prefer the older theories or the more recent ones?
I guess the older ones that are like fun are quite amusing because like they've lived on for so long. But I don't think there's very many that are that like old that are fun. So because they don't
Old
live
ones are
on.
like Bigfoot real.
Yeah,
New
Bigfoot,
ones are
Bigfoot.
like the vaccines kill you. Like that's a different
Right.
level of. Bigfoot
Oh,
lizard people is always a fun one, yeah.
yeah, I think my favorite one of all time is got to be the what is his name? The Zodiac Killer one.
Oh, where it's Ted Cruz's dad?
Yeah, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz. Yeah, Ted Cruz, Zodiac Killer. That's the one. That was just that was fantastic.
That's one of
Anyways,
those that's more or less harmless because everyone knows it's not true, but it's fun to
yeah,
pretend it is.
it's just it's so funny to see his reaction to it every time he's asked about it. It's just dead. His eyes are just I can't anymore.
I think it was Buzz Aldrin actually punched someone out once for asking if the moon landing was fake.
Wow.
They are so done with that one.
Yes. Anyways, we should move on to puzzles.
Oh, is that what this is about?
Yeah, I think we were supposed to talk about something. I can't remember what.
Oh, baseball? That's starting up now?
Right, I can't remember. I think it's just ending. Okay. So, what was the first puzzle you ever set? Is usually the question I start with.
First puzzle I set is also the first puzzle on my Logic Masters Germany page. It's a battlefield Sudoku called Ring Theory. Which has, I think, a higher rating than it probably deserves. I got into setting Sudoku because around the start of 2020, the before times, for no reason I'm aware of, Cracking the Cryptic started getting recommended to me by the YouTube algorithm. And it just kept happening, so I decided to finally watch one. And at that time, I had not yet been introduced to the existence of variant Sudoku. It was entirely new to me. And I started watching the Cracking the Cryptic videos, and Simon did a couple Battlefield Sudoku. And I really liked the ambiguity of you don't know whether the clues signify an overlap or a gap.
Yeah.
And I had some ideas for puzzles, and I decided to set one. And the first one that I ever set was Ring Theory, and it's currently sitting at 91% on Logic Masters Germany somehow, and I don't understand why. It's a good puzzle. I don't think it's 91% good puzzle.
Interesting. Did it take you a while to set this one up?
Well, this was back when you had to set a Sudoku in a spreadsheet. You had to go up and down a hill 3 times, uphill both ways, in order to put a single digit in the grid. And
Right.
everything had to be done manually. There wasn't any way to like go into F puzzles and hit solution path and get to the next stopping point or anything like that in the solve process or the setting process. So it probably took me a few days to set it, working off and on. A lot of that was experimentation and like setting up an actual grid to work in and keeping track of things in a very manual, analog way, more or
Right.
less. It definitely slowed me down. And Penpa made it a little easier, and then F puzzles made it much easier after that. And I set most of my puzzles now in F puzzles just because it's very convenient.
Hmm. Uh, And you said you're still happy with this puzzle, but it's not your best puzzle, sort of thing, or not even close to your best puzzle.
Well, it was a good first puzzle,
Right.
and I think maybe I got credit for that because it is the first puzzle. I've learned as well that I am often a terrible judge of quality of my own puzzles. Because two of the first puzzles that I set, most of the first puzzles I set were Battlefield Sudoku. The first 9x9s that I set were my Battlefield Sudoku Ring Theory, my Battlefield Sudoku Use the Force. I think Use the Force is a far superior puzzle. It's rated 4 points lower on Logic Masters Germany. Another of my really good puzzles, it just ones I expect to be really good because I think they're really innovative and fun, often end up being among my lower rated puzzles. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, Logic Masters Germany ratings are an interesting are an interesting topic.
And then the one X factor in those ratings that we're not going to talk about today, I hope.
Right. So, whenabouts did you first start watching CTC? Was it the Miracle Sudoku?
Uh, was sometime before July 2020. That's when Ring Theory went out.
Right.
Probably started watching around the beginning of July, I guess, 2020.
Mhm.
Then I was setting a couple of weeks later. And it was just a lot of fun, and I kept going.
Right. Had you solved like variant Sudoku or even just regular Sudoku before watching CTC, or was it a new thing?
I'd solved regular Sudoku.
Right.
There's a website called Conceptus, which does weekly puzzles.
I think someone mentioned that here before. I think that name rings a bell.
And it's a decent site. And it's got a whole bunch of different puzzles with different names because they tried to make it fun and branded. They have Hashi and Hitori and Slitherlink and Nurikabe skyscrapers, Bellships, Kakura. So I was familiar with a whole bunch of different types of logic puzzle, and I'm okay at them. But it had Calcudoku, which is like Killer Sudoku, but sometimes it's multiplication, sometimes it's division, sometimes it's either or. It wasn't branded as an actual Sudoku variant. I thought it was something they had come up with,
Right.
that it was its own thing somehow. So didn't actually know that variant Sudoku really was a thing, or it at least hadn't clicked in my head that that's what Calcudoku was until I started watching Cracking the Cryptic videos.
Right. Yeah. So I guess you had seen variant Sudoku, but not in the same way as in CTC.
I hadn't recognized it as such. And
Right.
often the Calcudoku they have there isn't actually broken up into boxes. Like it'll just be a 7x7 Latin square Calcudoku sort of thing.
Right.
So I just
Okay.
never was
Interesting.
really able to put together that that's what it actually was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing. If you knew Kakuru before Sudoku, you could sort of see how you could merge the two in terms of Killer Sudoku, but yeah, wasn't. Yeah.
I did for a Secret Santa gift this year. Last year.
All comes full circle. So how long did it take you to get your first CTC feature from when you started setting Sudoku?
Oh, that's a good question. When did Progress City come out? Whenever Progress City came out, that was the first one. I think Progress
October
City
1st.
came out October 1st, and I started setting at the beginning of July, so like 4 months.
How did it feel to get that feature? Validating or
Felt really good, and there's a story behind that particular puzzle, which I'd like to go into if we have some time.
yeah, go ahead.
Which is solution path Simon found for that puzzle, that everyone else finds for that puzzle, which Uses almost every cage in the grid before you place a single digit, which I think is a 7 in box 8 or something like that. But it uses the entire grid before you set a single digit into the grid. Really elegant and fun, and it's logical, and everyone enjoys it, and it's not supposed to be there. It's an accident. That's not the intended solution path. Intended solution path deviates almost immediately from what everyone does with that puzzle. And I remember Simon commented he wasn't sure why the puzzle had a name. Go back to watch that video. One of the first things he says is he's not sure why this puzzle has a name because it's just a killer Sudoku, and regular killer Sudokus don't usually have names.
That's such a weird comment.
The reason it's called Progress City is twofold. Number one, I was watching a lot of DGR Dave videos on YouTube at the time, and Progress City is one of his catchphrases. And Nell knows DGR. And the other reason is because there are two ways to make progress in that puzzle. There's the long, drawn-out way Simon and everyone else finds, and there's the much more direct, intended way that I think only one person has ever noticed. And I can show you that way if you can get the puzzle grid up on the screen somehow, if we can do this.
Yeah, sure. So we'll bring up the...
Have that technology?
Yeah. If CTC can load. It's the old sort of solving. Yeah. Okay. We're going retro with this.
Yes. So we have that 6 cage in box 5, which you can pencil mark 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Then I don't know how far behind the stream is from us talking. And there's the 2 16 cages. You can pencil mark 4, 5, 6, 7 quadruple in column 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple in column 3.
That's not what I meant to do at all.
Like that you're backing up instead of just hitting the delete key.
Yeah. And then, sorry, 1, 2, 3 triple in column 3, you said?
In column 3, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And
Oh.
the 16 cage.
Oh, gotcha. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gotcha. That makes more sense.
And those steps are the same in both solutions. And then everyone goes to the 10 cages and figures that out. And they move on to the 9 cage and the 7 cage and the 10 cages in the columns 6 and 7. And that's all unintended. That's wrong.
Okay.
You're supposed to do at this point. What you're supposed to do at this point is notice the 8-9 pair that remains in column 4. Pencil mark that in.
Mm-hmm.
Then notice 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 quintuple in column 3. Pencil mark that in. Then realize that you just placed 2 8s and 2 9s in the Fistimefel ring. Where do they go in the corner 2x2s?
And now we see why no one found this. Right.
Figured because it's the left side of the Fistimefel ring, everyone would notice it because the Fistimefel ring was in vogue at that time. It was very trendy.
Right.
One spotted. So you get that 8-9 pair in those corners, and that gives you a jump start to the puzzle.
Interesting.
So now you have to place the other 8-9s in those boxes, and they can only go in very specific places. And you have to place the 7 in box 3. It can only go in one place. And you have to place the 6 in box 9. It can only go in one place. Stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, the 8s and 9s are very restricted.
Loved this solution because I think it's so elegant. This was the first puzzle of me trying to force the Fistimefel ring to be used.
And everyone ignored it.
Nobody noticed it.
Yeah.
Naturally, I then went to everything is Roggen. You're not going to notice what's supposed to be there. I'll make you notice things that aren't supposed to be there. Yeah, that's the intended solution path. And if you go back and on that puzzle with that solution path, it's a completely different solution.
Right. Yeah, I bet.
And when the one that everyone ended up using was identified to me, I was concerned because it wasn't meant to be there. But everyone also really enjoyed it. That's the only reason that puzzle got published in the form it got published, rather than me going back to try to take that stuff out.
Yeah.
A lot of the cages that get used as part of that solution were meant for disambiguation at the end of the puzzle.
Which is a good lesson sometimes. Sometimes there's a happy accident and you get a good puzzle out of just what you thought was just some random noise to disambiguate other things.
I have a puzzle that made it onto the channel, was an accidental creation.
Yeah.
I was trying to make some other puzzle, I made that instead.
Yeah, I think that happens more often than we think.
Hope so, because it's funny.
Yeah, it is really funny. So, you said that if people aren't going to do what you want them to do, then you'll make everything Roggen. Let's talk about Everything is Roggen. This is...
Origin story of Everything is Roggen and me being an actual villain.
Literally malicious intent.
Well, Everything is Roggen was the result of me misinterpreting something Eric Fox said.
Right, okay.
The Discord channel. Someone had commented that they were wondering if you could create a Sudoku that only had negative information as clues. Mm-hmm. Like it showed a 7, but that just meant there wasn't a 7 in that cell, sort of thing.
Right.
Eric Fox said he didn't think that would be enough information to create a puzzle. I went, challenge accepted. Came up with Everything is Roggen. And
right.
That took longer to set than Orb 2. Everything is Roggen, not counting the testing and verification Orb 2. That added length. Everything is Roggen. There is a maximum cell in row 5, column 2 of Everything is Roggen. I wanted to get a specific digit into that cell.
Mm-hmm.
Had to happen by excluding that digit from row 8, column 2. It took me 3 hours to figure out how to do that elegantly. That was just one digit in the puzzle. So that was an incredibly difficult set. It seems like my puzzles either set in under 2 hours or a week, with nothing in between. And Everything is Roggen was the first time I had to really spend a lot of time setting a puzzle.
Did you feel like your determination and perseverance was tested in that?
It was definitely the first time that I was able to convince myself I could spend a long time setting a single puzzle and have a payoff. And there were times where I actually went to bed frustrated at one point because I couldn't get that digit where I wanted to get it.
Right.
Being able to get through that long process and come out with something that was, let's call it fairly successful at the other end, felt really good. It's currently sitting with a 99% approval rating on Logic Masters Germany, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of one of the iconic puzzles, I guess, in CTC. I mean, people know what you mean when you say Roggen if they're a fan of CTC. How does it feel to have something like that under your belt?
I'm really happy that I was able to actually contribute to the Sudoku lexicon. I created a meme.
Right.
How many people get to say that? Other people have also picked up the Roggen ball and run with it.
Yeah, yeah.
There have been at least 4 other people who have set Roggen puzzles. And they haven't all made it onto the channel. One was part of a Sudoku hunt that was a Cracking the Cryptic Patreon reward, I think. and I'm pretty sure there was another. I can't remember who made each one. I'm pretty sure that 4 other people have made Roggen puzzles.
I'm fairly certain
There's Roggen in the title.
Under Beyond made one.
Under Beyond made one, Chaotic Roggen. That one made it to
Right.
the channel.
Yeah.
Then there's another Roggen puzzle with only a handful of clues. It actually inspired a second Roggen puzzle, different but still Roggen, which has made it to the channel. And I think different but still Roggen has also a very high rating. Somewhere, where the hell? Different but still Roggen is 97% as well. And everything is right. 99%.
Yeah. I think someone mentioned in the comments that around that time Leroy made a Roggen puzzle, which I do remember Leroy making a Roggen puzzle, so that might be the other one you're thinking of.
Maybe. I do remember he... the nice thing about having created a Roggen genre is whenever anyone sets one, they send it to me for testing.
Right.
So I get first crack at them.
Do
So
you
I'm
enjoy
fairly
solving
confident
them?
in saying, yeah, because they force you to look at the puzzles in completely different ways. It turns Sudoku into some other creation, some other creature. Naverio set a Roggen puzzle. I'm just learning this. You'll have to send that to me, please. I think that's the only one I haven't solved. But yeah, I like puzzles that turn things on their head. This is one of the reasons that I really liked the Battlefield variant.
Right.
Which is what got me into setting, because Battlefield, the clues are outside the grid, for one, and they're completely ambiguous, and yet they are consistent in what they do.
Right.
So it's specifically different, I think is a good way to put it.
Right.
That's something that I greatly appreciate.
Zegras had a question that sort of ties it into this idea. He asked, what do you like better, inventing a great new rule set or setting something creative with a standard rule variant?
Oh, this answer is going to sound lame. I like them both equally but differently.
Okay, interesting.
When you're creating your own variant from the ground up, you get to be the one to experiment with it and discover new things, learn what's possible and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very rewarding and feels you feel very accomplished at the end, especially if what you end up with at the end is something other people also enjoy. When you're using an existing variant, you're playing in someone else's sandbox, but you're doing it because you thought of something that they maybe didn't think of first. So you're still doing your own thing. You're doing it with their tools instead of tools that you made. And both are rewarding, but they're rewarding in related but different ways. I have a great appreciation for both of those. And most of the things that I've created fresh were inspired by things I saw other people do as well. So really, it's all a single continuum.
Right.
Where one thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next.
And I like what you were saying about, like, it's similar but different when you were talking about the Roggen stuff. It's like a twist on something that you already feel familiar with.
Yeah, and the thing that I really like to do is when I do come up with something new, I try to make it related to something that is already out there.
Right.
That's actually something that I once criticized Big Tiger for. Because he comes up with a lot of really creative new variants. A lot of his early ones were so different from everything else that was out there that it was really hard to get into it.
Yeah.
Whereas you take something like taco Sudoku, just a different type of sandwich.
Right.
People already understand how a sandwich Sudoku works, so a taco is just a different version of that. So there's an easy jumping off point to that. And I like doing that, where it's new and it's fresh and it has brand new logic. You can relate it back to something you've already done. It'll make it easier to get into. The exclusion lines, what are they called? Diamonds instead of circles, and the digits on the line have to be outside the bounds.
Lockout lines.
With that lockout lines, yeah, is basically just the inverse of between lines.
Yeah.
Again, the logic is different, but you already have an inherent understanding of how it's going to work, so it's easy to get into.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I just really appreciate that flow of how things go together like that.
Or it was supposed to be easy to get into. Jaleb asks a question, which I think we're sort of answering as we go here, but how do you get people into new variants that are hard to get into? That's in the chat right now.
Yeah, I saw that question. I like to do it with introductory puzzles. If you go back to the third page of my Logic Masters Germany account, first puzzles that I posted, there's Ring Theory, then a 4x4 Prime Cages Sudoku I made, which I think is criminally underrated, by the way. I think that's a much better puzzle than 82%. And then you have a couple 6x6 battlefields, which I created specifically to ease people into the battlefield constraint, because I really liked it. I still really like that constraint.
Right.
And with a smaller grid, that makes it easier to just try an easy puzzle with that constraint and learn how it works. Systemafel does this as well with his more bizarre constraints. He'll say, here's a 6x6 example grid. Here's the problem. Here's the solution. Yourself to get from point A to point B with that reference point, and you can see if you're making correct or incorrect deductions based on if your deduction is possible given the finished grid.
Right.
And that allows you to learn the constraint before you try to take on the big bad puzzle. The big bad wolf, not like the puzzle's bad.
Yeah.
Pause before bad. I wanted to make sure people didn't take that the wrong way. Gateway variance is a good way to put that as well. Philip Newman said that in chat. So yeah, just easier puzzles to ease you into harder puzzles. I do that as well with my own puzzles. I try, when I'm doing something new, to have a couple easy gimme clues.
Right.
The puzzle. Ease the solver into it. I have a specific example we can do with that as well, which is, it's on the first page, sandwich variant taco Sudoku, which is, it came after my taco bowl Sudokus. Taco bowl was like sandwich, but you have arrows instead of actual clues on the outside. And taco Sudoku on its own is like sandwich, but the rule is whatever 2-digit number the clue is, you take the first digit and the second digit and the digits that are placed between those two numbers, and they will add up to the clue. So that 38 clue in the middle, 3 plus 8 plus the numbers between the 3 and 8 come to 38. So look at column 9, that's a 45 clue. Only one way to fill in that row, that column rather. 4 and 5 on the ends, but you don't know which. You go to row 9, a 43 clue, there's only one way to fill that in. And you put that together with the column 9 clue, you start getting digits, and you now understand how the constraints work, how the clues function together. And then you can begin the puzzle. Anytime I do something completely new, I try to include something like that to ease the solver in. And I like to think that's beneficial. Hopefully it is. Obviously have no control over how other people experience or feel about my puzzles, so I can set it into the world, but it's up to them how they experience it and if they like or appreciate the puzzle and what I've done with it.
Right, yeah. I've heard multiple takes on the whole should you ease people in with an easy deduction sort of idea. Some people agree with your sentiment, and some people think it's like people don't like to be tricked sort of thing into thinking that the puzzle's easier than it is.
I only do that with the first of a puzzle. If there are 3 taco bowl Sudokus, only the first one has gimmies.
Right.
All the others, you're thrown right into the deep end. Only one is still 100%. I actually know who is responsible for knocking each of those below 100. Not gonna name and shame. I am remembering.
We've got some similar questions here. We have Tallcat, who is the originator of this form. Well, I guess only one question of this form, technically. Tallcat asks, 1 orb, 2 why? I guess question 1 and question 2. I'm not sure.
The question 1 is orb 2. Why?
Oh, I see.
I'm responsible for creating orb 2. You can blame it on Sam Kappelman Lines and Jan, because they are the two who, when solving orb 1, asked, the number is restricted to 1 to 9 or can it be anything? I had not considered allowing numbers outside the range of 1 to 9. At the time, I wasn't planning to make another orb. They asked that question. I answered to 9. To myself, I said, on this one. The rest is history. Actually, at one point, sent an email to Mark and Simon that said, if you solve this puzzle on stream in under an hour and a half, I will donate money to the charity of your choice. I guess I looked at it and went, we can't solve it in that time. This is going to be a 10-hour video. And they did not do it.
Yeah. And charity wept. Oh, it's a very funny puzzle because the 17 diagonal could just be 17 and 0, like. So yeah, any number from
look at that long arrow as well from the southwest 6x6 all the way to the bottom of the grid.
Yeah, that's a pretty long arrow.
Could be a 1.
Yeah.
Could be all zeros except for a single 1, row 6, column 5 of the southwest grid. Don't know if it is. Don't have the solution in front of me. It could be. It could be a 1. One of my favorite clues I've ever put in a grid. My other favorite is the 5 little killer in Everything is Roggen. There's a clue of 5 over 7 cells.
Simon mentioned that in the intro. The one that's taking the piss.
And my favorite clues in any puzzle ever.
Yeah, it's brilliant, yes. So speaking of
Beyond put one.
Yeah.
Beyond put something like that in Chaotic Roggen as well. Where in box 7, there's a quadruple circle showing 3 digits that you've already placed in other cells. You place those cells, I think, in column 1 of box 9, and then there's a quadruple circle in column 2, 3 as those 3 digits, and you look at it and go, that's great.
So I guess this leads into the question of like, what is your, do you find humor in puzzles, and what kind of humor is that?
Try to. Especially think Roggen puzzles are ripe for humor.
Hmm.
Anytime there's a clue that could go a number of ways and then goes in the one way that you figured it never could provide an actual solution to the puzzle, I always find that funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
Anytime that Simon and Mark open a puzzle, look at it, and go, oh, "What the heck is this?" Usually say something similar. I've actually watched Simon's solve for Everything is Roggen multiple times just to watch him laugh at the puzzle.
Yeah. It is very entertaining, of course.
Yes. And his reaction opening Undar Beyond's Chaotic Roggen. He opens it and literally just goes, "Nope, not doing this one. What are you doing to me, Mark? I'm not solving this."
Yeah. Simon has some pretty awesome reactions, and it definitely contributes to puzzle humor. Yeah, I share a similar sentiment for just funny looking things that you're like, what on earth is this clue? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So I guess we should go back to Orb 2 because there was a question from Doomdiat about. Here, I'll find the wording here. What is the setting process for your multi-Sudoku series? Any advice you'd like to pass on to setters looking to set multi-grid puzzles like this?
Yeah, so there are a number of ways to do multi-grid puzzles. I've done several of them, and I'm sure I haven't done all of them. There's Samurai Sudoku and variants thereof, which is what Orb 2 basically is. It's a 6x6 Samurai Sudoku where I capped the corners to make it look like a circle.
Right.
Then there's stuff like hypercube puzzles that I made. I have a 4x4 hypercube and a 6x6 hypercube, where the solution to each grid is the same scaled up by 1. So the one that uses the digits 1 to 4, you add 1 to every cell, you'll get the solution of the grid that uses the digits 2 to 5, and so on.
Right.
For puzzles like that, or Simon is Dead, which is 4 9x9s next to each other, where the grids are interrelated to each other. Then there's puzzles like my most recent one, Sudoku Ban, where the grid is still in place, but it's separated and shuffled around. Or there have been a number that have appeared now on the Cracking the Cryptic channel, where the grid is separated, then shifted this way, sort of. So they don't quite line up vertically. They're offset from each other. And I'm sure there are other ways to do multi-grid puzzles as well. And they all kind of set the same way. And the method to set something like that is to know what you're trying to accomplish, be patient and thorough, and have multiple grids up if you need them. For instance, when I was setting Sudoku Ban, I had the split grid up in Penpa. Then I had second screen with an F puzzles grid. And anytime I filled something in one, I would fill it in the other and see how it worked.
Right.
Then that allowed me to go back and forth easily and see what would work and what wouldn't. For the hypercube, I was able to have everything right in front of me. All 4 grids are there. I'm looking at all 4 grids at all times. For the orb, same thing. Everything is there on screen. A rule of thumb that I try to go by, and if at some point you're going to ask me what advice do I have for new setters, this is the answer to that question. I'm going to preempt you because I'm a villain, is don't expect the solver to be able to do anything that you can't do.
Right.
You can figure it out. Don't assume that someone with more skill will be able to. There is a setter on Logic Masters Germany. And I'm not going to name and shame. There's a setter on Logic Masters Germany who their first few puzzles are intentionally bad. because they were trying to poke fun at the community. Then they set a couple puzzles that had actually some reasonable logic in them. Because of what they'd done before, was more realistic to think that they just got to a place where the puzzle solved uniquely and went, "Ha! Done. I'll figure it out." And one of the puzzles ended up being pretty good. The other one does not have a logical solution path. Because this setter didn't bother to figure it out, assumed other people would, and did not realize that it actually didn't exist.
Right.
That's a risk that you run if you assume that other people will figure things out that you weren't able to. One of the reasons that Orb 2 took so long for me to set, Orb 2 was a 40-hour process. The first 25 or so was creating the puzzle. Next 15 hours that I spent on it was proving that it had a logical solution. It knew it had a unique solution. I did not know if it was humanable. And it took me 15 hours to prove that it was, and only then was I comfortable releasing it for public testing. I had given it to Tirganis in pieces. I would run logic back and forth with him because he's also evil.
Yeah.
And he would tell me if things were working or not. Aside from that, I don't think anyone saw the puzzle until I had spent a very long time proving to myself that it could actually be solved. And at that point, I was comfortable releasing it. I'd done exhaustive testing, and that puzzle actually got its most recent solve this morning. 2 now has 16 solves because someone finished it this morning. You scroll down a little bit to that who solved it list. The most recent one came in at, I think, 10 hours ago. But the average solve time on Orb 2 that I'm aware of is about 2.5 days. It is not a fast solve. If you look in the right places in the right order, you can do the whole thing in under an hour. Just figuring out what that order is. So yeah, make sure that you have enough grids up to visualize stuff. If you can't visualize it, Perspective Solver also won't be able to. Take your time, thorough. More complexity you add to a puzzle, more careful you need to be to make sure it is still fair.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think it is, give it to other people so they can agree or disagree.
Right.
Why we have the testing channel on the Discord server.
Definitely. Dubdiat's other question is also interesting. Where do you draw inspiration from as a setter?
Usually I'll see something in someone else's puzzle and go, "Oh, that's neat. I wonder if I could do it this way instead and how that would work." And that will turn into something. Entire taco bowl variant came from me misinterpreting someone else's rule set.
Right.
What ended up being the taco bowl rule set was what I thought his puzzle was. And it didn't work, and I asked him about it, and he went, "Well, that's not what I'm doing here." I went, "Well, it's what I'm going to do." But usually it's see something else and remix it in some way. Do something that they weren't doing or that you think will also be interesting with it. And then sometimes it's, what do I wish there was in Sudoku?
Mm-hmm.
There's a puzzle that I made called Progressive Power Up, which is like 2/3 down the first page. There are 3 colored cells, and then whichever digit you put into that color, that corresponding box gets a new variant applied to it.
Right.
If you put, say, a 1 into the red cell, box 1 is now anti-king in addition to everything else. And I really liked the idea of having a Sudoku that changes as you play it.
Right.
I hadn't seen that before. this was my first attempt at doing that. And I have other ideas for that as well, but I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. And Nell is absolutely correct. This was inspired by Mario games.
Right.
But the idea of a puzzle that changes as you solve it has always been intriguing to me.
Definitely, yeah. That is intriguing.
And this was my first attempt at that, and it won't be my last. Just haven't done it in over a year now. I'll get to it, I promise. There are puzzle ideas I've had marinating for 2 years I haven't gotten to yet, because I just haven't figured out yet the best way to bring them to life. And hopefully people will enjoy them. But sometimes you just gotta take your time and let it happen on its own.
Right. How do you feel you are
Sometimes-
at... Yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes you get puzzles that just come together immediately, like the pattern.
Right.
It took me 3 minutes to set the pattern. That's all it took. And it's humanable in 2 ways. One way is cheating, but cheating is actually the intended solution, which I think is hilarious. It's an anti-knight, anti-king puzzle with given digits. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, and an 8. And it relies on the fact that every anti-knight, anti-king puzzle in existence has one solution.
Right.
And you just change the numbers in the pattern that it generates. And if you know the pattern, you can solve this puzzle immediately. If you don't, it's still humanable. And it's probably a more interesting solution path. Sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes it comes together really quickly.
And it looks like in the comments they're saying that they took the difficult path and it taught them something about knight anti-king, so that's good. What was I saying before? Oh, right. I was going to ask, do you feel like you're good at writing the rules to your own puzzle? Like, do you feel like you're good at communicating your ideas to them?
Sometimes. Problem with writing a rule, writing the rules for your own variant is you already know how it works.
Yeah.
And there's a tendency to write the rule as if the other person also already knows it without realizing you're doing it.
Right.
So I'm a good writer. And I'm a good technical writer. But no one is perfect at taking their own experience out of their writing when they're trying to be fully objective. So what I like to do is I'll write down how I understand the rule, then I will send it to the puzzle setting channel on the Discord. I'll ask, is this clear? Does this make sense? Is it easy to understand? Is there anything confusing in it? And then I'll rely on their feedback to make sure that it actually is as clear as I think it is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's one of those things where everyone thinks they're better than they actually are. Just resist the urge to assume I'm right.
Yeah, I think most people are very aware of how bad they are. They are bad at writing rules. Because it always comes back the same way. They just don't make any sense. Dang it.
I had someone leave a comment on one of my puzzles where they said the rules was unclear, as is common for DiMono's puzzles.
Oh no.
Like, what? This is news to me. I asked them to clarify and they never did.
Oh, that's brutal. Yeah, at one point, when setting a Spiral Galaxies puzzle, I forgot about a rule that's included in the default Svalgaku's puzzles. What is it? What is the rule? I can't remember the rule now, but apparently I forgot it then, I forget it now. But anyways, I didn't include it in the rules list because it's very well known and people already understood it by the time they were getting to the puzzle. So then I came onto YouTube and the YouTube comments were full of, "Why didn't you include this? Because no one told me it was missing." So yeah, you need to make sure you separate your own experience from the writing of the rules for sure.
I'm also notorious when solving a puzzle for forgetting that one of the rules exists.
Yes.
There was a puzzle that Simon featured on the channel recently. I forget which one it was. It had a negative constraint on it. I forgot there was a negative constraint, and I got stuck on the puzzle. And I do in those cases is I'll leave the puzzle pause, but I'll skip ahead to a frame in the video to see Simon got and where I should be looking. I'll quickly go back so I don't actually get any solution from the video. I still do the logic myself. And I saw that he got a number in the grid, and I went, "How did you get that? There's nothing there." And then I reread the rules and I went, "Oh, there's a negative constraint that does exactly that I should have known about half an hour ago." Explains a lot.
Definitely, that definitely happens. So speaking of solving, do you find more enjoyment in solving or setting puzzles?
They're both discovery exercises in my experience. And I enjoy the discovery process. I definitely enjoy both when I sit down to do it. I don't know which one I enjoy more. Setting is something that I need to make time to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have to commit to, and then I still get through the setting process.
Right.
The solving through a puzzle, and I don't get any money, just get off away without issue. So I suppose by that metric, I prefer setting.
You're lagging a bit. Could you maybe repeat the stuff about solving if you're still with us?
Enjoy setting more.
Oh no. F. Can you guys still hear me? Oh no.
I'm still in you.
I hate lagging stuff. It's so weird. Is chat? Can chat confirm that I am still here, or am I still? DiMono. I think DiMono is dead, but I am alive. Oh. Oh. Meme is you aren't. Okay. Good to know. Okay, maybe I'll just restart the Discord call really quickly here.
The stream's can people hear me? Right.
Oh. Stabilized? Are we stabilized? Yeah, it looks like
See
like we're
myself
good.
moving on the stream.
Yeah, I can hear you and see you, and
I'm wonderfully pixelated right now. This is amazing.
yes, it's revealing the green screen because you're an 8-bit, but your background is full HD.
So if I move swiftly to one side,
Yes.
to the other,
Okay, perfect.
my stuff.
So you were saying that you enjoy setting more than solving, but your reasoning, I think, was a little bit still robot-y. So why don't you repeat that?
I enjoy both setting and solving. But setting is the one that I'm more likely to commit to.
Right, okay.
Because if I get an idea for a puzzle, I'll sit down and I'll just power through it and set it. Whereas if I'm solving a puzzle and I decide that I no longer like it, rather than sit down and try to make it work, as I will when I'm setting, you can just close it and walk away. So by that metric, I suppose I prefer setting, but I don't know if I can really pick one from a subjective standpoint. I prefer. Another one of those different but both things.
Right. And then I guess the follow-up question is there inherent enjoyment in setting even without the reaction to the puzzle? Like, would you still set puzzles even if no one would solve them? Like if you were the last person on Earth, for example?
If I have an idea just to prove that it would work, I think so. Yeah. Speaking of puzzles no one has ever seen before, if you go down into the doodly-doo below, you'll find a puzzle down there called Down the Rabbit Hole.
If you go down the rabbit hole below, then you'll find another rabbit hole.
It's a puzzle that I set in December, an 8x8 irregular with a few Kropke ratio dots in it, that I set and I did up a solution guide for, and then just never did anything with. So, as an extra reward for people who decided to come here and watch this stream, the puzzle down there just for you. Description on this video is the only place you will ever be able to find this link. So it's not an easy puzzle. Should be fun, I hope. Speed.
Yeah, I'll bring it up just in a second. I just need to restart so you don't see the solution, everyone. There we go. Because I did solve it before just to ensure it's a good puzzle. It's quite intimidating. It is certainly a rabbit hole. It sucked up some of my time this week.
A few days ago, when I realized that this existed, I resolved it to make sure that it was humanable. And my solve, I think, was about a half-hour dedicated time. So it's humanable. Hopefully people enjoy it. It's the only place you will ever be able to find it. Now vanished. Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
It is not a troll puzzle. It's not Roggen.
No,
Not an
it's
orb.
not Roggen. That would be funny though. It's not April Fool's this time.
This time.
It's Easter, so you get a gift, guys.
There was a puzzle put in the Discord from Andrew Sarkis. Roggen Taco Orb when?
Yes, that's a question I'm gonna ask.
Which actually, because we're talking about Roggen puzzles now,
yeah.
it seems appropriate. I actually think I'm done setting Roggen puzzles.
Oh, interesting.
It was the first one to prove I could do it. Made one that ended up on the Patreon for Cracking the Cryptic, which has a very specific twist that I appreciate. There's Different But Still Roggen, which is Roggen where you have to color first. Or Before is a Roggen puzzle. Then there's Rigged But Still Roggen. Everything is rigged, where you have to solve it normally and then repurpose the clues as a Roggen puzzle.
Right.
And that's kind of all I have to say with the Roggen rule set. So unless something changes, I don't see myself setting another Roggen puzzle anytime soon. Though I do absolutely encourage other people, if you want to make a Roggen puzzle, make it. Any variant that I create, I want other people to also set in. I just want to be the first.
It's the biggest compliment for someone to use what you've created, right?
It means that you've directly inspired something. And as a creative, and if you write, make music, make Sudoku, make websites, you know, jewelry, a new recipe, you are a creative, and there's nothing more validating as a creative than to have someone else do what you did, because it means you inspired them directly, and it means you had a very specific impact on that person. That person is different, hopefully for the better, because of what you did. And as a creative, there's nothing more rewarding than that. Nothing.
Definitely. How would you describe your reputation as a constructor?
Evil, hopefully. One of the most validating and surprising things that has happened to me was if you go into the Logic Masters Germany forums, I don't know if this is still true, but for a long time there was everything is concertina. There was only one post mentioning my name. And that post was saying that handcrafted Sudoku is better than computer-generated Sudoku because setters like Fistamafel and DiMono clearly spend a lot of time making a specific solution for their puzzle. And I was mentioned in the same sentence as one of the greatest Sudoku constructors other. That was very validating. Hopefully I'm well regarded in the community. I obviously can't control how other people see me. I try to play myself up as a villain because I keep making puzzles that are evil.
Right.
I try to be humble. I try to be helpful. There are puzzles that I have helped people construct. Hopefully people like me.
Let's not get down that road hole.
I mean, I'm clearly evil, but hopefully I'm an adorable evil. Like Dr. Evil. So,
you're a bad guy, but you're not bad guy.
People seem to recognize me. They seem to think well of me, and I'm happy with that. I'm not trying to be the most anything
right.
in the Sudoku community, but if I can be counted among the most,
right,
it makes me very happy.
So you said you've helped some people set some puzzles. Have you done any collaborative setting?
Yes. Got together with Teganis because we are the villains of the Sudoku community, and we set a puzzle, an irregular puzzle with arrows and thermos called Turn of the Screw, I believe, which you actually put into the little graphic that surrounds us, I think. I think I saw it in there. It's the one... which side am I pointing at right now? Let's catch up. Yeah, this puzzle right here is that puzzle.
Oh, yeah?
It's
yeah,
called,
the arrows, yeah.
Arrows and thermos. It's called Turn of the Screw. And it's called that because of the shape of the corner boxes. Because they look like wrenches.
Right.
We're trying to come up with a puzzle that would use... I'm hearing.
It's on the stream end, sorry. It's not through the mic. It's through the,
I have the stream muted, so I guess that's why I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
We were trying to come up with a puzzle that would use set theory in a very creative way.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the layout that I came up with. But then the puzzle that we made didn't use it.
Right.
And so that led to me later creating a puzzle on my own that used the same layout but flipped, called One More Turn, which everyone thought was a Civilization reference, but it was actually a reference again to it looking like wrenches. Which I think is my most underappreciated puzzle.
Interesting. Because
if you look at the rating on Logic Masters Germany, I think it's sitting at 87%.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I think, the most inventive use of set theory that I have ever seen in a puzzle break-in, Sudoku. And I'm not going to spoil it, but if you figure out the break-in, hopefully you'll have one of Simon's "oh wow" moments when you realize that's what it is. That's what I was going for. And I am super happy with this puzzle. I think it deserves more attention. And I think it deserves a higher rating. But again, I don't control how other people see my puzzles, so that's not something I actually get to dictate.
Right.
That theory is not always right, Glipperell. You shut your mouth.
Yeah, so set theory has sort of a reputation as being terrible these days. What do you think about that?
I think it's all about how it's used.
Right.
Like any other variant, there's good ways to use it and bad ways to use it. If it's telegraphed, and like any other variant, it can be fun and simple to use and find. And if it's not telegraphed, it's something you just need to sort of intuit somehow, then that makes it less fun and less engaging.
Right.
So it's all about how it's applied.
Like in Progress City, how the Fistma file ring was so like awesomely telegraphed that everyone got it, you know.
Hey, don't you get on me too. I'm the villain in this stream.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Joe Wolick has a wonderful compliment for you in chat. Welcome, Joe. I don't think I've seen you around here before.
Hi, Joe. Appreciate you.
Set theory is always redundant because it has set in it.
An ATM machine.
Yes, ATM machine. Yes.
Joe mentioned that I'm phenomenal at solving. I'm actually, I think, a mediocre solver. I'm just persistent. Simon has called me out as being an excellent solver as well, because I tend to solve all the Fistamafel puzzles, which are hard. And there's one Fistamafel puzzle I solved that he didn't.
Right.
Simon failed at solving that puzzle. I succeeded, and I think that's the main reason that Simon calls me an excellent solver. I am an adequate solver. I have a very hard time finding full grid break-ins, and there are a lot of puzzles that I have failed at entirely because I wasn't good enough. I think because of how many 5-star puzzles on Logic Masters Germany I've solved, I have a reputation of being a better solver than I am. Mostly it's just persistence. I tend not to give up if I find a puzzle interesting. So I appreciate the perception that I'm an excellent solver. But I'm also going to self-aware enough about my own skills that while I appreciate being called an excellent solver, I'm not quite as good as people seem to think I am. You're funny, Philip.
Yeah. Glum Hippo had asked a question about a specific puzzle he had, well, sort of about a specific puzzle. He said, the puzzle that stands out in my mind is 89 spinning tops. Every time I think I'm gonna forget it, I am reminded and get the heebie-jeebies all over again. What puzzle of yours would you say is the most underappreciated one?
It's a tie between 89 spinning tops and One More Turn. Because I am... Switch over the wrong tab. Because I am not that good at solving full grid break-ins, I tend not to set them.
Right.
89 spinning tops is one of 2 full grid break-ins I have ever set. And I think it is a fantastic puzzle. I think it's one of my best. The rating on Logic Masters Germany agrees. It only has 15 solves.
98% rating. It's his most underappreciated puzzle.
Because it hasn't been solved.
Yeah, 15 solves, yeah.
But most underappreciated is,
Right.
I think, One More Turn. This is my most undersolved one, because I think this is probably my best construction. This puzzle. It's been observed half as many times as it's been solved. It's been solved fewer times than Orb 2. And
Right.
I think that this puzzle deserves more people trying it and solving it, because it is, I think, one of my best.
Well, there we go. We have some homework for you guys. Solve the rabbit hole in the description and this one.
89 spinning tops.
Yeah.
I want everyone watching this stream to send this puzzle to Simon. The Cracking the Cryptic email address and request him to solve this puzzle. Only do so if you've solved it yourself and you think it's worth it.
We tried that before. It
One
didn't work
grassroots.
last time.
Want grassroots, not AstroTurf.
Right.
Also, I think my only disjoint set is it one of two. I can't remember if the other one I'm thinking of is also disjoint. Is Dirty Tricks disjoint sets?
I don't know.
So it's one of two disjoint sets.
It does not say disjoint on it, but it might be. Yes, it is disjoint.
Dirty Tricks is disjoint groups. This is
Yes.
the puzzle of mine that I keep going back to and resolving myself. Is Dirty Tricks.
Why would you say that is?
I just really enjoy the solve.
Interesting.
And I always wait long enough that I forget it. So it's fresh to me again when I go back to it.
Luda had asked in a similar vein, which puzzles are you most proud of?
Well, Orb 2. Actually, I am incredibly proud of Orb 2. Orb 2 is also up there, I think, as one of my best puzzles. Because the construction was so intricate. It looks like it should not have a logical solution path, but it does.
Right.
Orb 2, 89 spinning tops, Dirty Tricks. And then there are a few offbeat ones that I created. Fight for Lunch is another really early one that I made. It's a Battlefield sandwich Sudoku. Back on halfway down page 3 of my Logic Masters Germany page, where you have the same clues being used twice in different ways on the outside of the grid. The clues on the left are sandwich clues and battlefield clues, which I thought was really clever.
Yeah.
Then
that is cute.
the numbers as well, a little bit up. The killer pseudo 2, where it's in a 9x9 grid, but rows and columns don't all add to 45, they add to other things. And there are rules for how numbers repeat within the grid. I think is a really clever puzzle as well. And I was really happy that I was able to make that work. But the ones that I'm most proud of are going to be Orb 2, 89 spinning tops, for Lunch, and obviously everything is Roggen as well because of what that has done for the Sudoku community in general.
Right. So we talked a little bit about this, but not specifically like what makes you want to continue solving a puzzle versus like stop solving it or not solve it at all.
Well, there's fun hard and there's tedious hard.
Right.
And the puzzle is fun hard, I'll stick with it. If it's tedious hard, then I'm likely to just decide it's not worth my time. It's one thing to spend 3 hours on a Fistamafel puzzle, because you know that it's going to have a logical path, and it's when you realize what the logic is, you're going to have that epiphany and everything is going to be fantastic. Versus spending 3 hours on this puzzle, which ended up not even having a unique solution.
Right. It's funny because you said the name, but I'm pretty sure you didn't say the actual name, and it was funny because your microphone cut you off, and it sounded like it was being censored. So it's just perfect.
That's actually consistent with my not naming and shaming. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
good. I realized afterwards I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to say that.
Oh, that's
yeah,
really funny that
there's
it actually did censor you.
Yeah, there's puzzles that take a long time because they're just tedious and you have to
Right.
just bang your head against them. And there's puzzles that are hard because logic is there and you just haven't found it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And when you realize which is which, that's the difference between whether I'm going to stick with a puzzle or not.
Yeah, I've definitely had the experience of asking a constructor, "Can I have a hint?" And then they say like what the intended step is, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm done." That's not no.
It's no fun when you realize that puzzles and not the difference between difficult and artificially difficult.
Right.
Artificially difficult isn't fun. When you realize the difference and you learn to spot the difference, that's, I think, going to be a difference maker for whether you continue with the puzzle. Can I give you a hint? Get good, son. Yeah, that's not.
Okay, another thing about your puzzles is that their names are very very interesting, and especially the naming convention that you have on LMD is quite interesting to me. How do you come up with your names, and why do you follow the naming convention?
Most of the names are based on either how the grid looks or they're a hint toward the solution path.
Right.
I think the convention you're talking about is, I'll say, like drop key XV Sudoku progressive power up,
Yes.
multi Sudoku, or free Christmas snowball, multivariant Sudoku. Oh, that was because I was trying to give prospective solvers an idea of sort of puzzle they were looking at by title, so you didn't have to click into it before finding out it's a variant you don't like.
Right.
Adorable Fury, I think, is my favorite puzzle name I've done, because if you open that puzzle and look at it, it should quickly become apparent why it's called that. I'm not going to spoil it for people who haven't seen it yet. Wait for it.
I feel like I'm
At the
missing.
bottom of page one.
Oh, the bottom
On
of
page one.
Adorable Fury, there it is.
Or Fury.
Spectacular.
Are I named it Adorable Fury because it looks like that. Then just a couple puzzles later on the same page, the variant Sudoku O, it's called O because when I was constructing it, I saw a deduction in the grid and I went, oh. I called the puzzle O.
There's also a big O in there, so bonus points.
Is that fist in a fell circle as well? I don't remember if that actually plays a part in the solve, though, in this one. The strongest shape is also because of how the grid looks. You need to be subscribed to a particular YouTube channel to understand the joke. And either you know it or you don't. I'm not going to say what it is because it's getting more fun if you find out on your own.
I don't think I know it, but I thought you were referencing hexagon is the bestagon.
Those are not hexagons.
No, they're definitely not hexagons.
The hexagon is the bestagon.
Yes,
It's a fantastic video.
that is a fantastic video. Peak content right there.
Yes. Yeah, most of my puzzles are named based on some aspect of the grid or the solve. Then if I can, I will include the variant in the title so that you don't have to click in to find that out. So if you're looking for a killer Sudoku and you see Kropke XV Sudoku progressive power up, you know that's not what you're looking for right now.
Right. I found it funny when you mentioned dirty tricks, and I looked at the title. I didn't see disjoint dupes on it, but then I clicked on it. It had disjoint dupes in it. Did you omit disjoint groups from the title because you knew no one would click on it?
Disjoint groups is terrible. No
Yeah.
one should hate it.
It's just killer Sudoku. They'll figure it out when they start.
They'll find out soon enough.
Yeah. Uh, is there something that you see other setters do that annoys you? Do you have like a puzzling pet peeve? I mean, I guess other than not having a logical solution, which we've gone into.
Um, I mean, there are a few solvers on LMD or setters on LMD who seem to be almost belligerent. They'll call out people for not being able to solve their puzzles rather than trying to be in any way constructive. People who intentionally put out bad puzzles are a little tedious, but not really annoying or upsetting. I can't think of anything that specifically bothers me that other setters do other than not thoroughly testing their puzzle.
Right.
Then getting full of themselves if you come up to them about it. More frequently is solvers who aren't able to figure out the next step, and then they contact the setter and go, "Are you sure this isn't a mistake?" That bothers me way more, I think, than anything a setter has ever done.
Right.
I don't know if I've been on the receiving end of that. I can't think of a time I have been, but other people have talked to me about themselves being on the receiving end of it. Yeah, that would really suck.
Yeah.
Clearly, as the person who spent more time with this puzzle than anyone else, you're the one who made the mistake, right?
Yeah. I don't think I've been on the receiving end on that either, but that's something I've heard of before. All right, before we get too far, we're pretty close to the hour mark here, so or the 2 hour mark. So are you sure orb 2 isn't a mistake? That's a good joke.
Solving it is a mistake. Setting it was not.
Anyways, I was saying we should get to we have some rapid fire questions, which are short 2 option questions. So you're just going to answer one or the other option as fast as you can. About
Sure.
10 or 15 of these. So local or global deductions?
Deductions, I'm much better at local.
Coloring or good lifting?
Ooh, coloring.
Simple or complex?
That needs more context.
Most of these are lacking context.
I'll go with complex.
Okay. Geometry or arithmetic?
Ooh. I'm better at arithmetic, I think.
Interesting. Penpa or F puzzles?
Depends on the puzzle.
Sudoku or pencil puzzles?
Currently Sudoku.
Interesting. Chaos or order?
I'm a villain, chaos.
Calculator or abacus?
I own both. Calculator is easier to assess, so I'll go calculator.
Okay. Cages or lines?
Cages.
Arrows or dots?
Arrows.
And to disambiguate a puzzle, a given or a clue?
Depends on the puzzle. I tend toward clue. There's an elegant way to put it in.
Okay. Outside or inside clues?
Side.
Outside, interesting.
They're more fun because you keep the grid cleaner.
Okay, I think I know the answer to this one, but
That's why I was so drawn to Battlefield and Sandwich in the beginning.
Right. Good or evil?
Come on.
All right, we'll just
Don't have to ask that one.
And lawful or chaotic?
Chaotic.
Right, okay. Okay, and then the classic question before I forget to ask it, what's a question you want to be asked and what's your answer to that question?
How important do you think puzzle solving is for mental health? And my answer is I think that is really constructive for mental health because, first of all, it forces you to keep your brain nimble.
Mm-hmm.
Studies have shown that the more you test yourself and the more mental activities you do, the younger you stay mentally and the more able you are to figure things out and think long term. And having a puzzle, especially one that you're able to complete, gives you something positive in your life that you can sit down to.
Oh no, you got
That
cut
will
out
give
for
you a
just a
sense
second.
of especially Orb 2. That
Oh,
will give you a
especially
sense
Orb
of
2. They were
immediate,
censoring that part because
but having that sense of accomplishment gives you something, it's
Mhm.
a endorphin rush that may not get from other sources because you sat down to do a thing, you did it under your own power, you accomplished that goal. Now you can say, I've done this. And that will make you feel naturally a little better about yourself. And the more of them that you do, more that feeling will creep in as well. And you'll start feeling better about yourself overall, hopefully. This will obviously will be different for other people. I'm talking hopefully about a trend.
Right.
So being able to sit down and apply yourself and do something purely through your own sheer force of will, being able to understand at a mental and emotional level, I chose to do this and I did it. That could be the difference between feeling worthy and not.
Mm-hmm.
Possible someone could sit down, do a Sudoku puzzle, and realize there is something that I may be good at. You could change someone's life by exposing them to logic puzzles.
Right.
They thought they weren't good at anything, and now they do, and they think that they are more worthwhile than they did an hour ago. I think the positive influence that something like pencil puzzles, Sudoku, logic puzzles in general can have on a person, especially someone who's doing it for the first time and discovers they enjoy it, is immeasurable. And the fact that I am able to contribute to that in hopefully a positive way, especially Orb 2, makes me feel good about myself, and hopefully the puzzles make the people who solve them feel good about themselves. If we can all make each other feel better through its community and its activities, that is a net positive for, I think, everybody.
Right. All right. Glipro
Glipperl's
asked
asking
an interesting question
the
for a
opposite.
friend.
What about people
Obviously.
who sit down at a puzzle and end up breaking it and feeling worse? Asking for a friend. I think all of us have done that at some point.
Right.
It's if you do that and you give up, you'll feel worse about yourself in the moment, but you'll realize hopefully it was a one-off. If you break it, then back up, figure out where you broke it, then come back to it and solve it. I think that'll give you an even better sense of accomplishment than you would have had if you'd solved it straight through the first time, because it was a harder journey.
Right.
So hopefully that will again end up being a net positive. There have been puzzles that I've left frustrated and not come back to, and that's never a good feeling. I don't think anyone's ever going to feel good about failing and being driven away from it. It was a one-off. It never had a puzzle that made me give up on the genre. And
Right.
hopefully no one else has as well. If you have more positive experiences with Sudoku or solving puzzles in general than you have negative, then hopefully that means it has been a net positive in your life and in your mental health situation. And that will leave you better than you were mentally you started. Hopefully. Again, everyone's different. No one's going to experience the same thing the same way.
As well, I'd say that you should try to understand like how you're feeling and what mood you should be in to approach what puzzles you're doing. Like if you've had a terrible day and you're just like tired from work and all that, maybe don't try like a 5-star fist and fall puzzle because it's just gonna make you feel like a lot worse and stupider. Uh, so maybe doing something a little bit lighter on the days where you feel terrible, you know? Uh,
I completely agree. That's actually one of the reasons that I tend to try to start my day with the genuinely approachable Sudoku puzzles in the Cracking the Cryptic Discord server. Because I know it's going to be bite size. I know I'm going to solve it. And it's going to give me a little boost for the rest of the day. When I'm feeling down about myself in some way, or I'm depressed, I've had a hard day, I may go to Logic Masters Germany, find some 1-star puzzle, and just do it.
yeah.
Then that'll be me, as I was talking about in a more complex form earlier, finding something I can do, finishing it on my own, and feeling good about myself.
Definitely. Thanks, William.
Then when I'm really jazzed up, I've had a great day and I want to challenge myself, that's when I'll pick up the 5-star puzzles.
Right. And even just not even the difficulty part of it, but something that you're familiar with, like trying a new variant on a day where it's not like you're not in the right headspace is not a good idea. But like, for example, you might look at there's a Battlefield Sudoku that's like on the first page of LMD. I'm going to do that because I know Battlefield Sudoku. It doesn't matter what difficulty it is, right? It'll just make you feel good no matter what it is.
Yeah. I think the Battlefield is an underrated variant. I think more people should set Battlefield.
I think
There's so
so
much you
too.
can
I've
do
been
with it.
meaning to set it since I started setting.
It's literally what got me into setting is Battlefield.
Yeah.
I actually have spreadsheets that I created about Battlefield clues and what they can do and how they can work together. And
Yeah. I like it because it's sort of the skyscraper vibe of like you can visualize what's going on as well in a fun little analogy sort of way.
I like Battlefield so much that you go to the 1-year anniversary puzzle pack document from the Discord server. Puzzle I submitted to that is a Battlefield Sudoku.
Right.
And I believe it's the one with the fewest number of clues for any Battlefield Sudoku ever set.
Impressive.
There's something like 7 or 8 shaded cells and half a dozen clues outside the grid, and that's it, or something like that. I'm thinking of a different puzzle for smallest number of clues. I don't know.
This is an interesting question for for difficult, I guess people who set difficult puzzles. What techniques do you use to ensure that your puzzles are fair and rewarding to solve, as well as of course difficult?
I actually don't set out to make difficult puzzles.
Mhm.
I just set out to make a puzzle that has an engaging solution path, and it'll end up being as difficult or easy as it ends up being.
Right.
Some of my highest rated puzzles on Logic Masters Germany are my 1 to 3 star puzzles. And 3 of my last 5 puzzles were only 3-star difficulty. I don't actually try to make puzzles that are easy or hard. I just try to make them that was good grammar. I'm a writer. I just try to make puzzles that are engaging and fun to solve. I focus on that first.
Right.
And I let the difficulty sort itself out.
And I should also ask this question: is there anything that you're working on in terms of setting, like any projects? Can you give us a sneak peek?
Yeah, I've been working on a puzzle hunt for the last 1.5 years. And it's been taking so long because I'm trying to make sure that the puzzles are also keeping with the theme. It's a very difficult theme to create for. I don't want to just go like here's a find a word. The letters you don't circle are going to spell out the solution. Like that's trivial. That's not really keeping with the theme of it. So I'm working on that. I also have a larger project I'm working on. I spent time on this morning, actually, which is much more narrative driven. And I don't quite know how that's going to be released yet. I don't want to spoil anything for that. Then I have as well a few puzzle ideas I want to set, but I haven't had time for yet.
Right.
Like another where the grid levels up with you as you put numbers in,
Right.
sort of thing. Nothing that I'm actively working on as far as setting new puzzles. I have some old puzzles that I am trying to bring life to.
Mm-hmm.
And some old ideas that I will get to, but I haven't yet. Then I also have a few odd puzzles that I haven't done anything with before, like Down the Rabbit Hole, found in the doodly-doo below.
Right. Have you ever tried to set non-Sudoku?
Yes. I made a couple look airs. What's the name of the variant? Look air? And I have some
Something like that.
nonograms. Made some look airs. I have some nonograms I've set. I did the Sudoku Kakuro hybrid as the final boss battle of the Secret Santa puzzle that I made this past year.
Right.
And if you go right to the bottom of page 1, the ABC box skyscraper puzzle from a window is another puzzle that I think is fantastic, that has been very well received by the Logic Masters Germany crowd.
Oh, interesting. Easy as ABC. We had an easy as ABC speed setting competition a little while ago, so I might put that in the cards at some point.
I've only set the one, and this was inspired by another puzzle that I linked to in the description. That puzzle is easy. This one is not.
Right.
This, I think, also is up there as one of the best puzzles I've set because the logic is tight, it's inventive, it's creative, and I'm pretty sure it's fun. And the 98% from people who've solved that variant before seem to agree.
Roggen nonogram. That sounds impossible. Yeah,
I don't know if that's possible.
that sounds ridiculous.
Roggen Kakuro could be interesting.
That
Problem
also
with
sounds impossible.
The problem with Roggen and a single clue variant,
Yeah.
clue rule, is there's just not going to be enough information.
Yeah.
So it's like Roggen Fog of War. I don't know if it's possible. One by one Roggen nonogram. The clue is a 1.
You just need to make you just need to make the one by one nonogram and then have this cell be unshaded, so then as soon as they open the penpa, the solution solved pops up. What a
The
troll.
one by one nonogram and the clue is a 2.
Yeah. Epic.
Woofer is pointing out, by the way, it's not an easy as ABC
Oh,
result.
okay.
from Windows. ABC box. It's a different variant.
ABC box, okay.
I've only ever seen it on Logic Masters Germany. I think it might be a Germany specific variant, in fact.
Interesting.
Don't quote me on that. I remember reading that somewhere about the variant, but I don't know if that was entirely accurate, so.
Okay. Yeah, I see that now. It can, yeah, it's definitely not as easy as ABC, but it's completely different. Very different. All right. Well, with that misconception, we have come to our 2-hour mark, which means we have to wrap up.
Right.
But thank you everyone for coming out, and thank you DiMono for being the guest and giving us all your wonderful thoughts on these wonderful puzzling issues and conspiracy theories and all that.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
And I forgot to give you a heads up on who will be next, but it won't be next week, but I'll send you who will be the next person to be interviewed, and you can announce that now, but it won't be scheduled for a little while.
While that's happening, everyone remember to solve 89 spinning tops and then recommend it to Simon if you think it deserves it.
And also check out the description, because there is a puzzle that no one has seen before down there called The Rabbit Hole, and it's by DiMono.
Specifically for viewers of this stream.
All right, drum roll. Did you get the name? Yeah, usually I have.
What I got is Anthera.
Yes, Panthera will be on the stream being interviewed in 2 weeks, I think. Probably, somewhere around that. A weekend, some amount of time. But next week, I think we will be having a speed setting competition for Variant Sudoku with co-host Kagisho. So, also excited for that.
That variant going to be Taco.
I don't know. We'll wait and see. It's a secret, of course.
Of course.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming out, and have a wonderful rest of your Easter Sunday. And I guess tomorrow is also a holiday some places, so have fun with the long weekend, and thank you again to Mono. Cheers,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good evening.
All right, we are